Hello everyone. It's been a while since I posted any videos, and that's because we had been on summer break, but now we're back in the fall semester and I am teaching procedural modeling at Becker College, which is our introduction or fundamental Houdini course. So what I'd like to try to do is record some brief videos each week that correspond with what we are covering in class. So this first week, our first week of class here, we talked about an introduction to Houdini, and in particular what I'd like to cover in here are just some basics on the node structure that we set up here in the network view. So I would like to focus on just 3 nodes, I believe is what we'll cover here in this video. The first one being the geometry node, which is one of our workhorse nodes. Geometry node is where we can contain one or many objects that we'll place in our scene. And when we create primitives from the create shelf menu up here, we are generating a geometry node with that particular primitive inside it. So if I demonstrate that here, I'm actually going to hold down Control and click on the box object so that it places it at the origin. We see that it creates a geometry node, and inside that geometry node, if I double click on it, we have the box node. Now we can do that over here in the network view without using the shelf. So if I delete this box object, I can right click in here and choose primitive and add a box. Or another method I could use is to put down an empty geometry node. So if I come up here to the geometry category, I can choose geometry, and it creates an empty geometry container node. And then if I double click on that, I'm now on the geometry network. I can right click in here again, and this is being cut off on my video, but down here I have an option called primitive, or a category called primitive, and in there I can find the box. So I'm going to click on that. Again, it's off screen, and I'll drop that node in. So there's my box node. So this gives me exactly the same structure. So the geometry node up here at the object level, that's the first node that we are exploring here. And we can place, again, as I said, a lot of elements in here. We can essentially build an entire scene inside one geometry node if we wanted to. I'm going to double click to go back into the geometry node. So I have the box, which is one of the primitive objects. But the other nodes that I'd like to talk about are the transform and the merge node. So if I take this box, what I can do is add a transform node to it. So again, I'm going to right click in here and choose manipulate, and this is being cut off again. There's a node in here called transform. An easier way to get to this also is just to type it in here at the top. So if I type in TRAN for transform, it comes up right there at the top of the list. So I'll add the transform node, and then I'm going to wire the box into the transform node. And then what I'm going to do is just move the box a little bit in the transformation node here. So if I put my display flag on the transform node, I can come over here to the viewport and just move the box over a little bit. So now that transformation is contained in this node instead of at the base level with the box. If I put my display flag back up here, we can see how it changes. Now what we can do, what's great about this is I can couple transform nodes with a merge node to create duplicates of this box, essentially instances of this box. So to do that, I'm going to add another transform node. So again, I'll right click in here and type in TRAN for transform and put down another transform node. And I'm going to wire that box into this new transform node. And let me expand this window a little bit so we can see it better. So we can have as many transform nodes as we want wired into one particular primitive. Now the problem I have at this point is, where is my display flag? Because I can only have my display flag on one node anywhere in the network. So how can I display both of these? And that's where the merge node comes in. So again, I'm going to right click. I'm going to do this up here to see if I can get a little more of the menu on screen. And I'm going to type in MERGE for merge. There's my merge node. This is another one of our big workhorse nodes. So I'll add that. And then I can wire these transforms into the merge node. and then put my display flag on the merge node. And now I essentially have what we would consider in other applications like Maya, a set of instances. So it's coming off of this box, and we're using two transforms to create instances of that box. And the reason that we could consider these instances is because it means that if I come back to the box and change any of its fundamental parameters here, that's going to propagate through all of these instances, which in Houdini's case, we're generating with transform nodes. So if I select the box node and I change its scale, for instance, its uniform scale, we see that both of these change. And I could just continue to add more and more of these as my scene or project sees fit. So those are the fundamental nodes that we covered in that first class: the transform node, the merge node, and then basically building these geometry networks inside a geometry node.